The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.
Welcome to How to Money with Cole and Cole.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation on investing, retirement, and everything in between.
At Full Swing Financial Planning, we're here to empower you to take control of your plan, your way, for your financial future.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Cole and Cole. I am your host, Baileigh Ashbrook, and I'm here with Cole Jaskey, again, only.
Yep, just Cole singular today.
Cole hit the flights this morning. He's going to North Carolina to train with one of our money managers. I won't name them, but that's a great thing about being independent. You can go learn about the companies that we use and how they work and what their philosophies are. So he's out there doing that.
And it's always a cool experience because we're so I would say somewhat isolated from a lot of the people that are actually running the funds for us, or making the decisions. And it's cool to kind of get an inside scoop of like their process, why they're doing what they're doing. Yep, build a relationship, and then just educate us on different ideas, different strategies. So it's always a great thing for us to continue to try to learn.
Yeah, so he's out there doing that.
Probably in warmer weather than us.
Yeah,
we're dealing with snow. It's going to snow tomorrow. It's cold.
It's okay. Just flying right now gives me too much anxiety. But why are you laughing? You know I hate flying.
You got this thing with flying, don't you?
So we were recording this. Super Bowl just happened.
Yep.
I technically won the bet for the podcast, but the Chiefs did not three-peat.
Got their butts whooped.
It wasn't even a game.
No, it's kind of, it was one of the
you always want to see a game in the Super Bowl.
Boring Super Bowls, I would say. There wasn't a lot of action. It was really, great game plan by the Eagles.
They
just
dominated.
Yeah,
defense sack after sack. I was like, ooh, Patty's getting lit.
Mahomes had that was probably one of the worst games of his career.
They just looked defeated the whole time too. They didn't have any energy in them. So
yeah, you could tell they kept showing Travis Kelce. He's just like, look, I don't know if it's came out, but I was assuming maybe it could be his last game. Maybe that's why he was kind of had
rumors that
he kind of had that added that sadness to him, like it was his last. Even walking off, he had the lone face.
He wanted to go out.
Yeah, which is be hard. But
think how hard that is to win three.
You got to it's never been done in the NFL era.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Well, it was a good Super Bowl.
Well, good. You won like every bet so far this year, on sports. So, but the Chiefs did not win, thank God. But we got so many Chiefs fans around us. So
my dad always kept saying,
the
chefs are struggling. And I was like, why are you calling them the chefs? He was just being funny. But so last episode, number 75, go back and listen to that first because that's part one of what we are going to talk about today. We did events that can derail your retirement plan. So go back and listen to that. But today we're going to do part two of that, and that's common retirement investment and behavior mistakes to avoid. So we talked about what can derail your plan. Here's how we can avoid these things by cleaning these things up. So let's get into it. You ready?
Let's go.
Failing to maximize contributions, number one investment mistake.
So we're going to focus the first handful on our list here is really investment related decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of times I think people really relate us to that, even though I would say we do a lot more of the emotional planning, behavioral planning. But failing to maximize contributions. This is one of the things, anytime we're sitting down with a client of ours or a new prospect, whatever it might be, we want to go through, what are you currently saving? And we see, clients or prospects not maximizing their current buckets of their retirement savings. And it could be, either maxing the Roth IRA annually or even taking advantage of your employer match, right? And that's always one of the first starts is are you getting the full match from your employer? Because that's, really it's free money. You need to be putting money in.
It's money you will not get unless you make that match.
Exactly. And that's one of the first things, especially for someone, even thinking younger people, the earlier the better, right? But even for people later that are trying to play catch up,
matchup contribution.
Make sure you're maximizing those pieces and continuing to try to save as much as possible. And I always am a strong advocate. A lot of plans now, 401k plans specifically, have an auto escalation piece
Yes,
where
I was just gonna say that.
Annually, it's like, hey, let's increase 1%. And most people in general industries do get some type of merit-based raise or an inflationary-based raise. And let's try to do some type of increase or raise to what you're paying yourself. Right. So in a lot of people, because they'll do, I would have saved more, but I forgot, or I just never got on, or I couldn't get logged in. But if you set it up to where you auto increase annually, it happens automatically, and you probably don't even notice, especially if you base it around a raise. Hey, I got a 3% raise, but I'm going to save my savings. I'm going to take half of that and put it in to my retirement account.
That's why I love at the end of the year, just going and be like, okay, here's what I made. Let's say whatever amount it is. What is the percentage I saved of that? That's always a good way of like how I gauge it. Okay, I made this amount, 15 to 20%. I want to just save into those buckets, like 401k, IRA. And I don't like when people are like, well, I don't have a 401k, so I couldn't save. You have IRA, non-qualified. That way you're just kind of treating that like I'm paying myself first. And that's how you automatically, every time you get a raise too, you look at, you're like, okay, I need to contribute more this year.
That's the number one thing that people can control is your savings rate. Yes. Right now, unfortunately, not everyone can control their income. Certain people are in industries that are higher than others for pay, but
some don't grow as quickly.
Yep. And if you want to say, hey, what's the number one thing that I need to focus on to have a positive impact on my retirement savings, it's going to be your contribution rate.
Yes.
And that's why in our software we use for financial planning, our like dashboard page for our clients, it has a savings rate of, we put all the inputs in. Here's what your current savings rate is based on your incomes and all the buckets that you're currently saving in. That's because it's a very important thing. It doesn't matter how good of an investor you are if you're not continually increasing your savings.
And I love this. If you haven't done this, like go Google a compound interest calculator online. There's so many good ones and you can see the difference. Like take 15% of your salary and put it in every year and then nudge it up every year. And you can see like, oh my gosh, if I would even contribute 200 more or 300 more a year, like I love playing with those numbers to show people like, hey, little changes make a big difference.
Great visuals.
Yep. Number 2, common retirement investment mistakes, failing to develop a plan. And I feel like we talk about this a lot, but it's probably the core foundation of everything. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like anything in life. You need to have, some type of goal or objective you're trying to complete. If you're wanting to accomplish something, right? If you're a person like, well, I really want to retire at 55, but you haven't set any parameters or did any planning around it. It's like, well, it's just, you're just saying it. There's literally nothing. You have to do something or put some steps in place or guide rails in place that know if you're on track or not, or if you're benchmarking towards that. And it's one of those, we've said this a lot, the retirement optional or work optional type thing, right? Yes. Work optional. And this just gives you, the more you plan and at least paint it down, either you have the clear expectations or what changes you need to make if you want to improve that plan.
But that kind of ties in failing to develop a plan with the first one. You can't maximize your contributions if you don't have a plan to make sure it's working for you. So to just create a detailed retirement plan of like, I'm going to retire at 65. I'm going to contribute 15% of my income. This much is going to my house. This much is going to my needs. That way you're on track for those things. Like failing to plan, planning to fail. Same thing. You've got to have a plan in place to be successful.
A lot of the 401k, if you have a 401k at work, for a listener, a lot of the dashboards when you go and sign on your 401k now have a retirement income calculator that you can throw in. Hey, here's my projected Social Security. It's kind of a simplified financial plan of what we do, but that's a great start right there of just going through a detailed, analysis through there that has a lot of your inputs. It already has your savings rate for your 401k. The tough thing is always figuring out, what are you going to spend? What do you want to spend, right?
That's retirement.
And that's the hard part of developing a plan, especially if you're someone maybe a little bit younger and you're younger, but you're wanting to retire at an earlier age, like say 50, 55. You need to really focus in on, what do I really want to have for retirement income to get there? And then you can back into the retirement savings details that you need to do.
And I think the number one question I always get, how much should I save? Am I saving it? I mean, I bet you hear that question often.
All the time.
How am I doing enough? Yes.
How am I doing?
And that's where you really get into the details of the plan that allow for you to look at, am I contributing enough? So those two kind of tie well nicely together.
All right, let's go to number 3, adopting a short-term investment mindset.
Emotional, very emotional, selling investments during market downturns and locking in losses. I think that is something that is I just had someone come in the other day. They were walking. They're like, oh, my wife panicked and they sold during the low. And I'm like, oh, if you have a plan.
It's Completely. I think the people that make these mistakes are the people that don't plan or don't have conversations on it.
Yeah.
It's generally and not saying I'm not an advocate for everyone to have an advisor, but I will say this is a big piece where, hey, we've thought about this, right? And sometimes you just need to talk someone, down, like the emotions. I'm saying, hey, this is like, we've planned for this. Or sometimes it is like, well, I probably made an incorrect allocation because I'm super uncomfortable with this. And that now, but that's not generally the time when you realize that. It's probably not the time to make the change. But when things, if you're patient, come back, right? Or you let things, kind of calm down, and then you recreate
and
recreate
then what
at
you're
that
saying
time.
is then you cannot be so aggressive. But if you're like, you had a client, they're uber aggressive in their investments, they lost a bunch and they are like, this is not for me. Don't sell when it's low. Just wait for it to come back, and then we can adjust. And then maybe you're more in that moderate conservative, but still growth mindset, but not full gas to the pedal.
This is one thing I prefer someone to probably default to being too conservative versus too aggressive, right? It always scares me when someone's like, based on maybe a political decision or something where all of a sudden they're ultra aggressive, right? Or that always scares me a little bit because there's always things out there going on. And same thing on the other side, being conservative, but I'd rather default to someone being too conservative than too aggressive, because you always can make your portfolio more aggressive down the road, right? Always. Once you get overly aggressive, and if you're using money, it's a little harder sometimes, and it'd be a little more emotionally frustrating to unwind the other direction.
I do think there's also like this short-term mindset in today's younger generation. Like, I'm just going to crypto it real quick and make a bunch of money and be done. Or option trading. And it's like, whoa. This isn't this plan is not going to work. Like, it might work for 1 out of 100, but you got to contribute. You got to be consistent. It takes time. I think people underestimate the time of the power of money invested.
Instant gratification.
Yes,
right? That's where we live in the TikTok instant gratification.
It's a very short term, like, I'm just going to make my money real quick and be done.
It's kind of like going to the casino the first time and you win a bunch of money. You're like, oh, this is
never
easy.
happened to me.
I won. A quick story time. When I was 21 in college, I won my birthday. I won. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
I'm going to do this all the time.
I'm like, what am I even going to school for? I'm like, I'll just go to the casino, and like the next 20 times I went to the casino in my life, I lost, so it's like, that's the classic, like, oh, I hit an options trade, made $5,000, and then they give that $5,000 back for the next 20 trades.
There's a reason casinos are open. You know what I mean? They're making their money, guys.
There's no doubt about it.
Well, just stay the course with the long-term investment is what we're saying. There's no short-term solution in retirement planning. But the next one I really like, trying to be perfect. I think this is just a general in life. Like, people wait for the perfect moment, the perfect time, the perfect mood to get with an advisor. Now I have time. Now I'm ready to make my plan.
Or I hit this age, or I got this amount of money.
Consistency is always going to beat perfection. The sooner the better, the more consistent the better. There's no perfect time to invest.
It's always I've said this many times on the podcast, and I say this to clients all the time. It's time in the market, not timing the market, right? And same thing when it comes to planning. It's the plan doesn't need to be perfect right off the get-go. It's the fact that we've started the conversation on having a plan.
And the plan's going to change because your life is going to change. So there's no perfect plan.
And I always feel bad. So our planning software we use, it gives a probability of success meter. And I always do kind of feel bad when someone's like, 35%. Success probability. But what that means is telling you, like, hey, we're going to have to make some type of either spending changes, or we need to increase our savings over the next 10, 15 years. Doesn't mean we can't get there. It just, we got to be consistent and understand where we're at. And that's where, it's never going to be perfect unless, you hit the lottery and you save every dollar, and just,
a lot of lottery winners go broke.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not, that was a bad example. But
you know what I'm saying? There, if you don't have a plan and you don't stay consistent and you're just trying to be perfect, like, I'll invest when I make this much money, or you know what I mean? Just get in there, make a plan, be disciplined, align with your values and stuff, and do long-term goals. It's a much better approach than the quick one hitter. I'm gonna land this.
Yep, well said. Putting all your eggs in one basket.
I feel like this is more common. Or no, maybe I don't.
It's,
maybe with just the crypto and
you go, I feel like it goes in cycles with some people. Most people understand, the concept around diversification, right? Hey, we're not gonna invest all in one thing, one stock, one asset class. We're gonna have a diversified portfolio.
It's more like gambling. If you're in one stock and you're gambling, because that stock could go all the way down. Go ahead.
And there definitely, I would say where it's more relevant for our client base is, like the physical assets. We probably have more people that are over concentrated in physical assets, but it's pretty easy. There's not a lot of volatility subject to them, right? But a lot of times I'll use like farmers, for example. They have a lot of assets in farmland, maybe not that much liquid assets or assets in cash or whatever it might be. So are they, is that really an error? Probably not, but it's one of those of like, if they ever want that, bigger cash needs for things, sometimes it's harder for them. But then you circle back to, someone that has $1 million portfolio and it's in 2 stocks, it's all in, you are taking that risk. Now the upside can be really great if you've worked it out right, but it's also at any point, you never know when something happens and all of a sudden you lose 30% of value, and that's $300,000 of your retirement portfolio. So it's one of those things that, I think working with an advisor, it's definitely a top priority for us, because knowing, kind of the fluctuations and volatility of your portfolio. But on the other hand, there can also be over concentration. I do think some people are overly diversified, and it kind of has
trying too hard.
Yeah, it has kind of a negative effect. Yes. Warren Buffett's talked a lot about that, about over diversification. I think it can have a negative effect too, but it's just important to understand. And again, we always are circling it back to the planning, the goals, objectives. All this kind of falls in line if you have a lot of those things on paper, or at least kind of a plan of where you're going.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital. Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market. Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarketwith2ks.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarketwith2ks.com. That's digitalagent@spinmarketwith2ks.com or 515-302-8026. Or visit our website at www.spinmarketwith2ks.com.
Let's do a little dollars and cents.
Dollar bills, y'all.
That was clutch. We had our producer Peter.
Have you did that before? That was pretty good.
He has his own pod.
What you don't know is I actually overdub my voice over Cole's every time.
You have like a good voice.
I know he does. You do have a podcast voice. So
okay, what do we got, Cole J?
All right,
you're excited about this
Department of Government efficiency stuff, right? It's everywhere. Everyone's riff-raffing over it.
You get on social media, someone's talking about it.
It's literally everywhere, but I pulled 3. I had, the Googler.
The Googles.
Pull up 3 different wild, funny. I thought they were more funny. Now, it's not funny that the government's, irresponsibly spending our money, but I thought they were like, just ones I'm like, this can't be real. It's kind of like that. Like, this isn't really true, but it's out there. $386,000 spent on a study of watching shrimp run on a treadmill. And I don't have a pun for this one, but I'm like, I don't even know what did this stuff. I should have looked into this one because I'm like, what possibly could they have been trying to find? Shrimp running on a treadmill. I didn't know shrimp could run.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize.
This is now, again, there's been false stuff on the internet before, but I'm just saying this is part of all the news cycle that's coming out.
Well, yeah, you've seen like people like this amount here, this amount here.
Number 3, and this is, we're in agriculture. This is from the Department of Agriculture. I did find where this budgeted money came out of. $2 million spent on developing a better beef jerky recipe.
Wow.
Peter, that spending was a bit to chew on.
Cole J's laughing so hard.
He deserves to. I want to know where this beef jerky recipe is.
Yeah, where is it and what is it?
I love beef jerky.
Yeah, I want to try it.
Yeah.
So, while you guys are chatting away, I had to look up the shrimp running on a treadmill.
That's wild.
Because I was like, wait, that's a water creature, correct?
I think shrimp can be like really, there's a whole different type of species of shrimp, but we are off the rails on this.
We are, sorry, go back.
But anyways, I love to, I'm thinking about this, and I had this thought, like when we were talking about this today, or like what to do for dollars and cents. Like, it's very relatable to personal budgets. Like, what are this government efficiency,
where's
task
our
force
money
or whatever.
going?
Yeah, it's like we don't know. Now, there's a lot of good things that we're spending money on. So don't get me wrong. Like, not everything is bad, but same thing in your personal budget. Like, you start going through, you're like, holy crap! Like, it doesn't take much to compound the waste, and we're seeing the effects of that. And that's one thing that hopefully
who's approving these?
It's wild. I mean, there's a lot of things I think we're gonna. Hopefully it becomes, this is one great thing with social media, or how quick the news travels now, is like there's more transparency, and that's what ultimately I think there's a lot of people that's going to be very irritated.
Talking about like you should be able to see where your money is going.
Like, okay, I paid this in federal taxes or state taxes, and now I saw the state of Iowa, they created their own task force for the state of Iowa government efficiency. So, which is good. I mean, if we create more accountability in the government, great. I'm all for it. I don't want to be leading it by any means. I got our own clients' budgets to worry about, so I can't worry about our federal government's budget. But I surely would like to know that my tax dollars are being used efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, you work hard and you see the tax dollars go out. You're like, as long as it's going to something productive, helpful, beneficial to the world. People in the world.
A lot of irritated, a lot of mad people out there though. Boy, there's some, I don't know what's going on, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Kind of a wild time right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say
day, something new.
Something new. Obviously things are changing very drastically. There's a lot of news. Like it could be positive for some, it doesn't matter. I always bring it, the government is not going to save you.
Yep.
Like this is the importance of having your plan being I'm not saying they can't influence your life. I am not taking away that we should care about them, vote, educate, all that, but take care of yourself, because your plan, your money, whether you like it or not, some is going to taxes, but you need to be in charge of your plan. And these are the type of things we want to talk about today, because we want you to avoid these mistakes.
Well said.
I mean, let's be honest.
We don't,
I'm all for a better everything. If you know me, efficiency is like, and Cole J, like we love efficiency. Like we're like, how can we do this better?
Which, if you want to be efficient, apparently you don't want to work in the government.
Yeah. So. Or you do and want to make changes. So, all right, when it's just me and Cole J, we can
get off topic for sure.
Let's get back on the retirement rails. Okay. So speaking of being in charge of your plan, I do think a lot of people do this. I could even find myself doing this back in the day, neglecting to revisit your plan. You kind of set the plan and you forget it. You don't look at it. You don't analyze it. You don't see if you're on track.
Very common, I think, even for especially younger people, when you kind of get in that, just the core savings years, there's not a lot of changes, but
you're just grinding the saving.
Yeah, it's a really good thing. At least have a one time a year. Most people build it around their budgeting time or the beginning of the year, but make sure you're revisiting at least once a year, just saying, hey, did I improve at least the worst? You don't need to make a wholesale change to your plan, but you should see progression, or hey, we need to update some things because I got a raise, or or my spouse
went up, or there's a health problem,
like I had another kid, whatever it might be.
Those things are expensive.
Yeah, kids. I know, whole nother topic there for our kiddos, but I mean that's something. And again, that accountability of working with an advisor, we're constantly, I would say sometimes bugging clients like, hey, we want to make sure these things are updated. We're updating our data, and we're at least checking in. Are these goals, objectives, things still the same and still relevant?
And I think too, you just feel better. Like from the emotional aspect of money touches everything. It's a part of your life. If you're just reviewing, like me and Luke sat down personally in the beginning of the year, I'm like, this is where, because I'm obviously leading this when I say me, like, but Luke's on board too. Like, we're like, okay, this is where we're at. This is where we want to go. Like, and I would show him the same thing. Like at this savings rate here's where we'll be. And he just feels better. He's like, okay, I feel good. I have a visual of where we're going. We sat down and we do that every year. And you just feel better going forward, I think.
Relying too much on Social Security. This is something I would say,
very common.
Yeah. Again, I kind of like segmenting like younger clients, older clients, but clients that are closer to using Social Security, sometimes that's, and I'd say, 55 and above right now. Let's use that as an example. Sometimes they are too, I worry too much that they're, hey, our core dollars, we're going to be good enough with Social Security. And that's one thing, again, coming back to the plan of making sure we have a detailed plan on your spending needs of what you think you're going to need. And
And going back to part one, all the things that derail your plan, this is where Social Security isn't covering those things.
And it really should be, it's a supplement, not your primary source, right? Now, unless you're spending a very, very small amount, which for some people
Some people, they do accept that. Like, this is what I got. I'm not doing anything in retirement.
It does work. But as we sit right now, we're 8 years from having some type of payments not go through for Social Security. The trust fund for Social Security is 8 years as it currently sits. Now, I do think, again, I keep saying this, we're going to make changes, but we have not made changes. It's probably been 3 years since or however long we've been doing the podcast. Yeah. I've been saying that. And
there's going to be changes to Social Security.
There's been no change. So, but that's on the other hand of like, hey, we need to make sure we're not too reliant on that, because what if there is a 25% reduction, of current benefits? Now, there'll probably be an uproar.
We've also learned we don't know what's taking place in today's world, like a pandemic. Like, things change very quickly.
Yep. So very important to try to detail your plan. And I think a great exercise is to do a plan with Social Security and without, right? And what we do, I would say in our office, or most of the advisors that work with us, we'll show people either with a half benefit. If you're 50 or below, I either show you half of your expected benefit of Social Security, or I'll do zero benefit. 50 and above, I will show what their Social Security statement says, or if you bring in a Social Security statement from that most recent year, I generally use that. But I do like to run a plan, or at least one of a test saying, hey, what if it was 50% of your benefit, or 20, or 25% reduction, just to see on the impact. So if I do know, like, hey, we probably need to save more liquid assets.
And that's what I was just going to say. I feel like people, I would even say 50, let's just say 50 and up, they're at the point where like, oh, I couldn't save more, so I do have to. No, you have time. Like, let's say you're working 50 to 65 or 55. We can maximize those contributions so you're not so reliant
10 years on a lot of time in savings.
And I'm not saying, of course, it's so easy to be like, oh, if I would have done it sooner, if I would have paid that off sooner, I could have been. There's still time, and that makes it so you're not so reliant on Social Security. Like, never wait to save more. So tying that back into that one. Look at me tying these all together. So number 4, ignoring tax implications of withdrawals.
Yeah, this is one I would say underestimated.
Yes.
Impacts of people, especially when they take large distribution. This is very common when someone retires.
They want to go buy.
They want to spend something early on, or they want to take a bigger sum out year one, and they don't realize sometimes that. Especially if they retire like mid-year. Say someone retires in November, they had their income all the way through the year, and then they're like, oh, I want to take $50,000 out before the end of the year.
You're like, hey, your income's going up.
Yes, and that kicks you maybe up 2 tax brackets or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden you pay 22% on all those dollars plus state income tax on the dollars. And you're like, well, that was, that can be a really drastic drag, especially if you're overspending out of your retirement buckets than what maybe you initially projected to do, because you're really just you're taking more money out to get what you want in your pocket, but you have to pay more taxes on it. So that
then you're missing on that growth opportunity of that money.
It compounds the other way, right? Just like we talk about compound interest on the growth, it also can compound on the drag or the reduction of your assets because of the amount you have to take out.
And this is also why we talk about, pre-tax money, Roth money, non-qualified, they all are taxed differently. And that's why it's nice to work with someone. So like, hey, why don't we pull from this bucket for that expense? And let's keep, there's so many levers to pull and to avoid these mistakes too.
And it's we talk about diversification in investments a lot, but there also can be tax diversification, right? So it's, hey, do you have maybe a Roth bucket, which is tax-free?
Which we love Roth bucket.
Yeah, Baileigh loves her Roth bucket. I do too, but it's, and then we have our traditional IRA bucket, which is pre-tax. So that's where when you take out, you're going to pay the taxes. Or maybe you have a non-qualified bucket where it's more subject to capital gains, which are generally a lower rate than ordinary income. And some of that's maybe tax-free, depending on the type of investments.
Yeah, we go into the weeds. Is it a good time to pull from it? Do we have losses? Can we do some tax harvesting? Like, there's so much more to that.
And that's where maximizing that diversification too, or having a plan of, okay, this is my retirement income strategy, not only as, checking off how we're going to be invested, but also how the tax implications are going to draw down on our portfolio.
Yeah. All right, let's transition to a mistake about debt. Carrying debt into retirement. Cole J, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely okay. Not my favorite though. I'll tell you,
personally, it's a no for Baileigh. If you know Baileigh.
If you have a choice,
don't.
Yes, I mean, I completely, because it's one less thing that the reliance rate of the dollars you need for your monthly budget. If there's not debt service on there, it just it's going to make everything easier. I don't care, what the debt is or how good the debt is. If you have the ability not to do it, and it makes, financial sense, let's try to get all that debt paid off. And if it's the difference of, working for 12 more months before a lot of times that's a great strategy. And, but really it just comes down to, hey, your personal situation. Some people have business assets, or there's outside debts, like, you could have had a student loan for a child, right? Yes. And those are things that, they're in your name, but maybe the child's paying some of it back, you're paying, right? There's times where
definitely situational.
Prefer not to, though.
But I think you're just going to be more at peace. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be easier for the plan to work. And I'm not saying you can't bring any in, but like especially high interest, like auto loans are high, personal loans are high. You know what I mean? Getting that cleaned up, and then you can rely on your withdrawals, how you have them without those unnecessary.
If you're carrying probably anything other than mortgage debt,
you're going to say credit cards. Like, whoa.
If you're carrying mortgage debt, sometimes is the one that does make sense. Just because, for example, if you have a 2.5% interest rate, you refinanced 5 years ago at a 15-year, and you got 3 years left. A lot of times, it's not going to make sense to pull, because money market's making more than that interest rate. But if you're carrying a 19% credit card balance that you've had all year, you probably shouldn't be retiring, for one thing, because that means you don't have the income right now to pay off that credit card, right? You're spending too much. So
your cash flow isn't working out.
You better make sure you got that bundled up before you go and pull the trigger on retirement and start taking assets out of your retirement account to pay your credit card, right? There's probably some type of error in the plan there.
And tying this back, if you have a plan, you'll avoid, you know what I mean? Yep. You can plan for this way in advance. So when you get to retirement, you don't even have to overthink this part. So speaking of, you said something about having a loan for your child, being too generous to family.
This is a concern of mine. This happens more often than what I would like it to happen. Is I see people take distributions
for their adult children.
Yep. Or family members. I
see like elderly too taking for the grandchildren.
Yep.
I've had a few clients. I'm like, oh, interesting.
It definitely, and I get it. Everyone emotionally wants to help their family.
It's a good thing. Like, I get that.
But sometimes it's. I hate to say it when it's people that I know their retirement is already pretty tight.
Yes.
Right. Or what the worst case scenario happens to someone that does that. Say they retire at 65, maybe at age 70, they need to give a adult child $70,000, $80,000. That compounded, if they live to 90, 95, that 80,000 is a huge amount of dollars they probably missed out. And then what happens if you're short at the end of your retirement and you now have to live well below your means in the last portion of your life?
And stressful.
Last portion of life. It's very unfair to you versus that adult child. Most of the time, there's other avenues, that most of the time there are very unique situations where someone does need help.
Maybe like a car accident or something.
But I would strongly make sure
prioritize your financial situation first, because then you're also teaching them how to take care of money and have an enjoyable. If you know me, I'm like, no,
can't just
boundaries, healthy boundaries.
People out.
Yeah. Yep. Some people need problems. Your adult child might need the problem of figuring out. Otherwise, it's just going to be a little dependent on you.
I've seen it on both sides many times, but it's always
tough love.
Individual situations. There's probably times to help, but there's also times where you need to learn to say no.
But we also don't want you to help at the expense of your financial well-being. So good one. So what we can do to help, or any advisor, or what you can do to help yourself. Number one, I think we said this 10 times today, a plan, a customized plan for you. Working with an advisor or someone you trust, love, that understands it, to tailor a plan to you. Would you agree?
I would say it's really just starting that conversation. And generally, that's how we build a plan. Yeah. It's through a conversation of asking questions of what your priorities, goals, objectives, comforts are. Mm-hmm. And then we try to get it on paper for you. So then we have something to benchmark on. And, and something to then review on an annual basis to see, are we progressing? Are we getting worse? Do we need to make different decisions? Do things, how does certain changes impact the probability of success?
And then I think once you have someone you're working with, another thing is now we're reviewing. Now we're supporting your needs, like budget support, life changes support, allocation changes. Like, these are the things that you're going to tweak throughout the years through the plan.
So, a great example is that someone worked at a career for 10 years and then, got a new job, got a raise. What are we supposed to do with that money?
Yes.
That maybe was in your old 401k, or, hey, I got a significant raise. How can we save more to, or invest more?
Where should I put it?
Yeah. To improve the probability of our plan.
And I think number one, how we can help or anyone can help is stay ahead of challenges. And I say this, life is going to happen. It's not if it's going to happen. Something's going to change. We're going to have inflation.
The what ifs. The
market volatility is going to happen. You're going to have unexpected events in life. And that way, when you have a plan and you feel like you're honed into the plan, you can face these challenges head on.
All right, as we wrap up here, retirement success isn't just about investments. It's about avoiding financial pitfalls and staying disciplined. And, there's so many different routes your plan can go. And it's ultimately, we just challenge everyone to have the conversation, at least, whether it's just with your spouse or with a financial advisor. But that's always the first step. Or if you're already working with us, or, make sure you're continuing to have the conversation.
Build the relationship.
Yep, just because we did all the front end steps, we need to make sure we
want to see you guys once a year.
Yeah, of course.
We love annual reviews. But yeah, it's just working with someone, building that bond, and discipline is the best self-love in financial world. So,
all right, what do you have for us? I know we got
also we have some big event. We have a new event. We're excited about it. We're
excited.
This is the first announcement. We haven't put anything out online, but we're getting there. We are doing a charitable 5K in Fort Dodge, Iowa, at the Fort Dodge Country Club.
Yep.
And that will be a 1K actually for the children and 5K for the adults.
Yep. And it's we are going to split
the donation.
The money is purely everything we raise is going to be donated. We're trying to get some sponsors, or us as a business are taking care of all the event costs itself. But we have two causes. One is I think a lot of people in our area, and most people know someone that's been impacted by childhood cancer. I have a personal friend, one of my best friends, his little boy actually went through a long battle and still have some things going on. So some of it's going to go to, or half is going to go to a childhood cancer cause. And then the other half is going to be donated to the Fort Dodge Junior Golf Association.
Which is new, right?
Yeah, which is new as of last year. It's a nonprofit. Cole Peterson and myself are both involved, and it's really to be a strong advocate and grow the game of golf and junior golf specifically, and really piggyback on the Fort Dodge Country Club's Junior Golf Academy that they do in the summer. It's really grown, and we just want to have a positive impact on those two things.
Yeah, we're really excited. So the Full Swing Forward 5K, April 13th, Fort Dodge Country Club. You'll see stuff online, but we're really excited about that. And then we have our Social Security in October, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, don't forget, like, subscribe, share this, please. We love doing this podcast, but it always helps when we have more listeners and helping everyone stay on track for retirement. The Super Bowl MVP 2025. I had a purpose before anybody had an opinion. That is still true. My purpose is being who God called me to be. Jalen Hurts.
Go Cubs. You've been listening to How to Money with Cole and Cole, the podcast of Full Swing Financial Planning. To learn more, visit their website at www.fullswingfinancial.com and follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn.
For now, I'm Cole.
I'm Baileigh.
And I'm Cole.
And we'll see you on the greens.
Security and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.